Lebanese authorities reopened its border to Syrians in March, 2 years after the outbreak of COVID-19. The reopening has led to an increase in border movement, though at a lower rate due to the Islamic holy month of Ramadan.
The borders between the Syrian and Lebanese sides were opened after a decision was issued on March 20th, 2022, when Arabs and foreigners were allowed to enter. It was closed 2 years ago, but the closure was partially based on the controls seen in other countries during the pandemic. The movement is better than before, and it continues for 24 hours between the Syrian and Lebanese sides.
Earlier, in March 17th, Syrian authorities lifted regulations restricting the entry and exit of Arabs, foreigners, and Syrians.
My first visit to Syria was in 2019. During the coronavirus, the procedures were tightened on borders. Now I'm going to visit my uncle's house in the Jermana area.
I work as a driver between Damascus and Beirut. I cross the border 3 times a week, and the procedures are easy and simple.
During the pandemic, we used to visit Syria for medical treatment. Now we undergo a PCR examination or show the required vaccine certificate, and the procedures are excellent.
Tourists bound for Syria these days are visiting religious landmarks. The visits increase during the Islamic and Christian holiday seasons. But revitalizing tourism between Syria and Lebanon year-round will boost much-needed government revenues and stimulate economic activity in other commercial sectors.
Syria and Lebanon are economically and culturally linked in many ways. Syria is Lebanon's only overland connection with the rest of the world, but it has limited entry to Syrians for years. Meanwhile, Syria has eased its border restrictions to pre-pandemic times. Zahra Derzi, CGTN, جديدة يابوس Crossing.